All right, good afternoon, everyone. If we could go ahead and get settled in, we will shortly call this meeting of the Higher Education Committee of the House, Georgia House, to order. Mr. Baskerville, would you get the door for us, maybe? Keep this for the vice chair.
Oh, Mike, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting then of the House Higher Education Committee to order today. We have a number of items on the agenda, including House Bill 1363, 1379, and House Bill 1413. What I'd like to do is, there's a lot of things going around as this is crossover week. What I would like to suggest we do is we have two substitutes for the well, there are substitutes for all three bills that you should have received PDFs on, and they are now in your folder. But on both the bills that we've heard before, HB 1363 and 1379, here are presentations on those bills. Those would be available for action if the committee's ready. But we'll carry those forward and give those time for you to continue to work on those. And then I will present 1413, and then we would come back if we're ready to move on any of the items. So with that, I think in our batting order this afternoon, we'll call Representative Houston Gaines from the 120th to tell us about his substitute to HB 1379. And Representative Gaines, when you come, if you'll tell us the LC you're working for, so we're all on the same page.
Sure thing, and Representative Panich is going to be up next to me if that's okay. LC 610442S. And Mr. Chairman, I will be brief. We talked about this quite a bit on Thursday, but based on the committee's feedback and suggestions and working on this over the weekend, we have basically four main changes. The first one begins on line 23, which this pares down the legislation to no longer apply to every single country in the world. Instead, it applies to, as Representative Fleming's bill did last year, foreign adversaries, but then on line 27 to 30, countries of particular concern, which includes countries like Burma, Cuba, Russia, Iran, Pakistan. Lines 31 to 34, which is special watch list countries. That includes countries like Vietnam and Algeria. Lines 35 to 37 includes countries that have a sovereign wealth fund like Qatar. So that is that change. On line 70, this only applies to monies over $10,000 given, because it's our belief that if they're influencing in a negative way, it's going to be at least $10,000. And that's if they gave 9,999 twice, they would be captured under this because they're going over 10,000 annually. Also, based on what the committee suggested on line 73, we took it to annual instead of semi-annual to match Representative Fleming's bill, and also to match Representative Fleming's bill. Line 100 through 102 would require reports provided to the House and Senate, and those are the changes.
You have a couple of questions. Representative number 9, is it Whit Park? Yes, sir. You're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what does this bill do that Rep. Tim Fleming's bill does not do?
The main thing is it adds a number of countries of concern that would be required for reporting purposes. And it applies to K through 12 and TCSG.
And TCSG, USG, the Public School Board Association, where are they on this bill now, your updated substitute?
I have not heard from them.
So I would be concerned if, again, since we passed a very similar bill last year, whether or not this would cause confusion or additional administrative burden. Would you be able to reach out and provide us some sort of update before this bill moves forward?
And I say I've not heard back. I've talked some with the university system. I don't want to speak for them, but some of the tweaks that we made so that it doesn't become overburdensome is what we have here before you today, where it only applies to countries that we feel like are countries that are potentially trying to have an influence on curriculum and those sort of things, and by adding it to only $10,000 and above. So we have incorporated those suggestions.
I appreciate you amending the bill, but if we could get a clear answer of where these other organizations who would have to implement these requirements would be, that would be very helpful.
Sure. Well, and like I said, I've been in conversation with them. You're more than welcome to reach out to them as well.
Thank you.
I don't know which microphone it is. It's just me. Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for some of these changes after the last hearing. My question comes from the section that you all changed with the foreign country of concern. How much overlap is there between each of these? And for example, is there going to be an actual list that will be provided for, because some of these are written in a way that it sounds like it's very specific, but we're not naming actual countries. So like, for example, subsection D, like how are we just going to make sure that these schools know specifically which countries we're referring to, because they're not already on some type of watch list like an A, B, and C?
One potential idea, and I think it's maybe not a bad one, is have the Department of Audits before since that's who they're reporting this to, is compiled a list based on the criteria in the legislation. But these are set dates of what countries would be on each of these lists. But I do see your point, and I think that's fair that maybe there's a path to trying to have clear lists provided.
Thank you.
Are there further questions for the gentleman? We are trying to move along this afternoon, but there were significant changes to the bills listed new. Is there anybody in the audience that would wish to comment on that? I don't know if I don't want to put anybody on their toes from the university system or TCSG, but does anybody care to comment? All right, let me come back. We don't have, no one wishes to speak to this, so I'll come back to the members. You had a question? Yes, ma'am. What? Press a, I'm going to try.
Thank you. All right, maybe I did not hear you right, but one of the things that I was concerned about when we started talking about countries, countries and what have you, where I did not see any listing of African nations or what have you as being a part of this. That was something that I was worried about over the weekend. And so have we included other countries as well as in this, or made a presentation to them or what have you, and let them make a choice if they would like to be a part of this?
I don't think we have anybody who wants to volunteer to be on this list. This is like the naughty list.
The naughty list?
This is the naughty list.
Okay.
This is an article
But we got some straight up African nations too.
Well, I mean, and they may fit into these
Okay.
categories. Is that your question?
That was my question,
Okay.
but I also want to make sure that we make an effort to try and let's talk about it, because we didn't get it. Well, I didn't see any in this.
I think Representative Gaines, and I misconstrued the lady's question, and I apologize for that. She was asking that there are some nations that might be in sub-Saharan, in Africa and countries that could fit in these categories. Do you know of any particular country that might? But I mean, they would all be be considered if they fit the description, yes?
That's right. I mean, the list of countries of particular concern, there's, I want to say about 15 countries that includes, but some examples are Burma, China, Cuba, Iran, Russia, Pakistan, and then the special watch list, Algeria, Vietnam. There's about 5 on that list as well.
Yeah.
So in total, I want to say it's about 20 countries or so.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, Representative Gaines, we're going to hold, as I mentioned, we're going to hold this over. Did you, Representative Pennis, did you have anything you wanted to add? Are you there to back him up if he?
Just here for backup.
Okay. Well, we don't have any further questions, so we'll hold this over while we get the next presentation and the presentation of 1413, and then we'll see if the committee is ready for action later on today. And if you have anything, you can maybe send the chair relative to TCSG and USG. I know the inquiries that I had from them, you have addressed most of those in your changes. They were worried about the, if you will, first dollar to be reported, and you've done that with 10,000. They were also worried about every country, and you've limited those countries. Those were the 2 main questions, but perhaps you can get some of that information for us as we're waiting.
We will.
Okay. With that, we'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll move on if there's no further questions. Without objection, we'll move on to our substitute for House Bill 1363. House Bill 1363. Chair Lady Silcox, I'm coming, while you're coming, I'm working off LC 650083S. Is that what you have?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Tell us about your proposition and the changes that you've made.
We so appreciate the committee's so much testimony and input on this bill, and we have removed all references to the word anti-Semitism, so those have all been removed. In addition to that, we at the suggestion of a lot of the testimony, we basically added in section 2, really starting at the top of page 3, just basic policies and procedures that they would follow. And this mirrors the language in section 3 that was provided by USG in terms of being parallel with their policies and procedures. So those are the changes. And I'm very excited about the prospect of having a K through 12 Title VI coordinator, so that none of our students in any of our K through 12 schools are discriminated against on the basis of, certainly race, religion, ethnicity, or national origin.
That concludes your
Yes,
thoughts
sir.
on it for now?
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. You have a question, Dr. Clark. You're still down there at number 1.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for this bill. I really, truly do love the idea of bringing civil rights protections to the state level, especially in education and protecting our students against discrimination. So I want to start off by saying that. My question actually is on lines 81 through 84, we allow for public K through 12 schools that are basically told they're going to lose state funding if they don't, comply with what the Department of Education asks of them to do. But in 81 through 84, we give the public schools an opportunity to bring a right of action against the board to Superior Court.
Correct.
I, for whatever reason, and maybe I'm just completely missing, and that's very possible, I don't see a similar right of action available to USG and TCSG. Is there a reason why we're only giving that to K through 12 and not giving our universities and tech schools an opportunity?
Well, because this is a more local matter, I think that the reason for this is because all of these claims will typically go to federal court, but this is giving the K through 12 people another venue locally to try to resolve this before going to federal court.
Okay, but we don't want to give our universities like a local.
Well, I just think they're working on a higher level already because they deal with so many more federal funding issues.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Doctor, if I might,
Of course.
be part of your conversation here. I think the the local school systems are governed by a local board that may have a different view of how they're handling this. The TCSG and the university system, TCSG directly, because they're not constitutionally separated, but the university system, while they are a single group run at a single point, the state level. And so we would essentially, we're making this as a state body and instructing them to do this. I think giving the locals who are in 159 counties and independent school systems an action if they feel like they are being, unjustly accused of not following it and so forth. I think giving them
A local option.
Giving them a
Absolutely.
local avenue in the court is probably more important, where at the state level we'd be one state organization would be litigating against another, which is not unheard of in this state lately, by the way. But I think that's probably the differentiation. But you bring a good point. If the university system or TCSG thinks they need some reason, I don't know who they would litigate against.
Right.
In that.
Well, and they take students from all over the state and all over the country, so it's just a different population. This is really local to me versus university level.
Yes, ma'am. Please continue. Yes, good
So
conversation.
I hear what y'all are saying, and I guess the question I'm asking is, at the K through 12 level, if they don't agree, they do have a way of saying, I don't agree with that. I would like to take this to Superior Court. And I guess my question is, if a school in the university system says, I do not agree with this, but the Board of Regents or whomever, so the Board of Regents is being allowed to take corrective action. If the school says, I do think that we fix the issue, or I don't agree with this, and I don't think we should lose our state funds, who is the person that they, at the state level, that they can say, no, I disagree with y'all's findings, and I like, who is the person? If it's not-
I would, and I have somebody from TCSG, I don't know if we have USG here, but I think you bring up a good point, but in the lines of the code to which you're referring, it's the state board telling a school system. In the USG system, it is the system office telling the school system. The president of Pickett University, I'm not going to pick on anybody because I don't have a president line. He works for the chancellor and the Board of Regents. If your boss says you're not doing it right, you have there's a management structure within that. Nobody at the Board of Education of Dooley County or Fulton County or Gwinnett County has a direct line that they report to anybody at the State Board of Education, and thus I believe that's the reason for the cause of action. But again, if you're not comfortable with that, we can continue, to talk about that and work about it, because it's a fair point.
I just want to make sure that we have an appeal process for every school that might get corrective action. My point is that I want to fight for students who have been discriminated against or feel they have been discriminated against. But I also want to make sure that these schools, if they are at jeopardy of losing funding, that they at least have some type of appeal process. And I see a very clear one for K through 12, and I don't see a clear one for USG and TCSG. That's the concern.
And I think that what the chairman's trying to say is, because constitutionally, the State Board of Education and the schools are governed by the legislature, whereas the university system and the technical colleges are governed by the Board of Regents. And so since we have different bosses that we answer to, that's why it doesn't mirror exactly.
All right,
But they both have an avenue for appeal, for sure.
got it. I think that's where I was unclear on what the avenue was.
Thank
for
you.
USG and TCSG.
Let me go in order here. Whip part, number 9.
There we go. Does that work? Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Representative Silcox, or Chair Lady Silcox, thank you for taking into consideration the feedback provided from the committee members. I certainly appreciate the amendments made to the bill. With respect to implementation, along the lines of Representative Clark, will there be any, just to clarify, this only applies to K through 12, not to USG and TCSG anymore?
Well, Section 3 applies to USG. Section 2 applies to K through 12.
So with respect to Section 3, given that USG and TCSG already have this process or something similar to it on the books, how will this interplay with existing law to ensure there isn't confusion or additional administrative burdens that may result in a student who's discriminated from receiving justice in a timely manner?
How will this play? What did you say?
How does this play with the existing statutes and the existing rules and regs from USG and TCSG if they already have this sort of discriminatory process?
This
This
is their language in Section 3.
Okay.
So this is their language, this is their structure, and even though it's redundant, they were very kind and very humble to share this language with us. And so I don't think it'll be an issue at all. If anything, I think it will be a help to K through 12, because if they need a guide, there's one at the university level.
Thank you for that clarification. And then at the local level, the Department of Education, do they have any concerns? Are they ready to implement this come its effective date?
Yeah, I think they will have to be if we pass it. I hope you'll vote for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I might, Whitpark, that was a good line of questioning. I would think from the university system, they are doing this now. That's in their policy. I think it's important, if I might, editorialize here, that we take that policy and put in statute, because the current administration at the Board of Regents won't be there forever, and they could change that policy. I think it's important to reinforce it in state statute. While again, we are constitutionally separated from their policy, this is a strong reminder that the work they're doing is appreciated, and that we back it through statutory language, even if it is questionably questioned to enforce due to the constitutional separation, that we're aligned with that. We had number 12 there for a second, and then it went away. Did you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I was just wanting to ask, is this also inclusive of private schools and colleges?
No, it does not.
It's not private schools nor private colleges? Okay, just all public?
Just the public. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Glaze.
Are there further questions from the committee? Further questions? We also had, there were some changes here. I'd give folks an opportunity to speak to this briefly if they'd like. Anybody? Did you have a question? I'm sorry. Okay. Touch your mic, see if that does it. There you go.
It does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all of your help. Representative Silcox, just thank you for the substitute to the bill. I think this is clarifying a lot. I'm trying to read through, I guess, starting on lines 43, what the process looks like when these complaints arise K through 12. And I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Once there is a complaint, that goes directly to the state level DOE. There's not any mechanism that is at the school level or school district level first. It immediately goes to the state level at DOE.
Well, again, we inserted this language, Representative Holland, because we had testimony that we didn't have any process in place. And so we tried to listen to the testimony and put loosely a process in place. But I think this is going to all have to be worked out with logistics. Okay. Just like any new law, when it's implemented, rules and regulations will have to be adopted to comply with this language, but at the same time, it's establish a framework. So, because this is a brand new idea.
Thank you.
So.
Any other committee members? We're having trouble with buttons. Yes, sir. Whitbar.
Just one additional question that comes to mind, and I know we've had this conversation before, but why are we not applying these sorts of protections to private school students as well?
I think it's kind of the definition of a private school. I mean, people may choose to educate their children different ways, and we really, as a state legislature, we have authority over the public schools.
I hear that, but certainly if we want to protect all K through 12 students, whether they're in public or private schools, given this body's decision to provide choice and tens of millions of dollars of public dollars now subsidizing those going to private schools. I'm still having a difficult time understanding why, you know, if this body feels that these protections are so important, private schools essentially are permitted to discriminate, which I think would not be aligned with the, you know.
If you,
Just help me understand that.
if you could step inside some of the private schools that I have, I would tell you that it's a very litigation-oriented group of people. So those private schools have to stay on their toes, trust me.
All right, thank you.
And again, if you'd allow the chair here, I think one of the things, these protections are provided through federal law. Private schools have to abide by federal law. We're putting this, as I see it, you know, isn't it true? I'll do that because we're supposed to be questioning, but, you know, isn't it true? We're putting these protections in state statute because these are institutions over which we are tasked to oversee. And this is our management structure. This is what we do to hold ourselves accountable. We are all accountable for the civil rights violations and the civil rights laws that exist in federal statute. And so we're not taking anything away from federal law. We can't create federal law on these things, but we're acknowledging that exists and that we have statutes in Georgia to provide a structure and a framework for people to bring a claim to us directly in addition to the one that they can bring in federal law. All of those things, federal courts are available to private people at the private level in K through 12 or higher ed, I believe. Yeah, another question. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Representative Glaze. Yes, ma'am.
Asked you to clarify what you were saying. Are you saying that if a private school accepts public funds, that they are subject to Title VI? Is that what you just said?
No. And again, remember, I'm not an attorney, several semesters shy of it, but what I was saying, and I'll look to Ms. Forrester over there, our staff attorney, is private schools, whether or not they accept any state dollars, are subject to the same federal laws that all of us in this room are subject to relative to discriminatory acts. And, you know, and the people have due process options and relief from that. What I was saying is the ones that we are tasked with overseeing, TCSG, the university system, we are providing a framework here to provide those citizens direct state access to that, because that's what we want to do in the institutions that we oversee. And you know, certainly it could be a conversation if we wanted to delve into that, but we could also provide this whole thing that you could have those reports come to the state level for private business out there, for a trucking company, for a transportation company, for Uber. But the state doesn't do that because the federal discrimination laws apply, and those typically go to federal court. We're just trying to take care of the things that we oversee, our institutions. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Is that not true, Anna, that the federal discrimination laws apply to you regardless of whether you receive state money? Is that not correct? Press a button and I'll. 27? Yes, ma'am. 13?
I would have to check the specific laws to be sure, but some, from my understanding and recollection, I think some of the federal laws apply if you receive federal funding. So I think it would just depend.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're back to, we'll go to quarterback and then we'll come back to you, Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chair Lady, for this straightforward bill that picks up and covers an awfully broad section of our population out there in K through 12 and in TCSG and USG. Would you say that this is a quantum leap forward, at least, or a really meaningful step in the right direction?
I would, and I really appreciate that, because I do think that this is a huge step in the right direction to making sure that every child in Georgia does not go to school and be discriminated against. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to belabor the point or to unnecessarily litigate the matter. Just, the fact that, and I would agree with, all the comments made, in that, yes, there may be a federal cause of action for private school students, that this is a good step forward. However, I think if we're going to ensure that, as the author of the bill stated, that we want to ensure all kids in Georgia have these protections and provide perhaps some overly litigious folks additional options to ensure that their students are protected from discrimination, regardless of whether they go to public or private school. I think it's just something for us to continue to consider as this bill moves forward. And again, I hope that, we do take into consideration that, if we're going to apply these requirements to public schools, that, again, at least in my mind, makes only sense that we apply them to private schools as well. But thank you. Is that not true, Mr. Chairman? And thank you.
Yes, sir. The senator got wide, the whip got wide latitude. I appreciate you, Whip Park. For those that listen here, the Whip and I come back and forth with each other from time to time, but I appreciate his membership in this committee, and he's a very valid part of it. I don't see any further questions at this time, so we're going to hold this. We're going to hold this over, and I'll take it under advisement if we'll bring it back today or tomorrow for action. Yes, ma'am. We're going to go now to present. I'm going to ask the Vice Chairman of the Committee, Carter Bader, if he would come forward and turn over the chair to him, and then if he'd be kind enough to recognize me to present House Bill 1413.
Okay, we are ready to hear House Bill 1413. Mr. Chairman, you have the floor when you are ready to present LC 610441S. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. But yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I was looking at Anna beside you when I said that. I promise you.
Thank you, sir.
No, I appreciate the committee, and I'm excited to bring before you what we will refer to as the Dream Scholarship in House Bill 1413. This is a substitute bill. The bill that was out has changed briefly. I will assume that the committee members and those in the public have seen this before, so I will give a quick overview of the bill and then explain the changes that were made in this LC 0441S. The crux of this is to implement through the Georgia Student Finance Authority what we will refer to as the Dream Scholarship. The scholarship was originally put together and funded in the budget. Has gone through several iterations, but completed its final passage, and I believe the governor plans to sign that budget tomorrow morning, that places the money in the Georgia Student Finance Commission for dispersal. It will be the first portion of money would be to use for the first few years, and then an initial deposit that we hope will be matched with fundraising through the technical college system and the university system of Georgia to help our students achieve more financial success. The scholarship is in place to be up to $3,000 per year, up to $3,000 per year, to fill the financial unmet need. That's a bit of an open term, and it was the governor's idea to do that on purpose, because we don't know exactly what that need may be. but he has put that before us, and this is the implementation language in order to provide that. You will see, even as we work today through this bill, probably some additional language before the committee is actually asked to vote on it that speaks to the financing, how the money will be distributed on an annual basis, limitations of amounts to make sure that the endowment money is not spent prior to it doing what it's supposed to do, and that's to raise an ongoing funding source in perpetuity. So with that, let me mention the changes that were made into the bill. The first one that we changed seems small, but I believe makes quite a bit of difference, is on the original bill in the financial aid definition, we struck the word loans. We want students to have exhausted financial means, scholarships, grants, awards, and so forth to meet their financial need. But we felt putting loans in there was just telling you have to go into a debt in order to get this scholarship, when the governor's idea and the idea of this committee in the past and other members of the legislature was to help reduce student debt. To say you had to have debt before you would qualify for this was not necessarily the right message to send. That is not to say that this would completely answer all the unmet needs and a loan would not be necessary for some students, and that's okay to have for some students, but we did remove that in the financial aid description. There were a couple of other definitions that was removed. One of the things that we've done with eligible post-secondary institutions, you will notice that the non-public post-secondary institution definition has been removed, and they have been removed on line 26. Basically, we have gone back to the governor's original wish that this would be for TCSG and the university system Georgia students at this point in time. I know there are some in this room, and there are students all over Georgia that go to our non-public partners, and that does not allow them to be available, this money to be available for them at its first pass at the beginning, but there's limited funds. The funds are going to be matched by TCSG and USG foundations, and as we spin the program up, we just went back to the governor's original thought of how that distribution would be provided for. So those institutions, the eligibility will not be in this version, which leads to another change later on in the bill, which spoke to grants to students in non-public institutions being matched, but the match was not defined. So that's something that we would look at defining going forward. But those post-secondary institutions are not included in the initial rollout of the DREAM scholarship. Also, due to the funding at the beginning in what is on the original bill in lines 38 and 39, what is in the is a little bit further down, 37 now, in 37, 38 in this bill. We basically have changed, well, we've actually inserted the word undergraduate degree, so this would be for undergraduate degrees, not professional programs or master's graduate degrees, and we have stricken diploma or certificate. This is for undergraduate degree programs is what this would be available for. One of the things we did, there was a limitation later in the bill that only allowed this to be available for fall and summer semesters. In discussions with leadership at TCSG and USG, along with the governor's office and leadership in the House and Senate, we removed the exclusion of a summer quarter or semester. We believe that as long as you keep the annual limitation on the amount of money the student in conjunction with the financial aid office, should be able to meet their unmet financially need with this scholarship. And if that takes them through the summer semester or summer quarter, that's fine. It's the annual amount stays limited, but they are able to use it in the summer. We felt like this would help people graduate sooner. There was some discussion, and will no doubt be ongoing discussion later in the bill about the work requirement. There is a part-time work requirement. It is rather loosely defined, and we are going to, and I'll talk about this later, but we're going to allow the financial offices at the universities work with the students to define that. They would do that under the rules and regs and recommendations of the Student Finance Commission, and those rules and regs would be set by the board of the Student Finance Commission. So we want to give flexibility here and do that with monitoring. There'll be reporting. So the work requirement will be defined in rules and regs to be reasonable, workable, but a valid part of the scholarship. Then you will also see that in lines 83 through 88, there will be a reporting requirement annually so that we can make sure that this scholarship is working and that it comes back before, as did the completion grant before the legislative process, to be refined and to be in the best interest of the students. We would hope to have effective July 1st and start applying in the fall. And I see Mr. Chris Green in the back of the room, the president of Georgia Student Finance. This is not a small task for he and his organization and their board to set up, but we feel like it's important to Georgia and Georgians, and we want to ask him to do that and to stretch their opportunities. One of the things I did want to mention is the completion grant will continue to be available for all of our Georgia students. That would be public and private institutions, and could work in conjunction with the Dream Scholarship. There's nothing in the Dream Scholarship that says if you had the Dream Scholarship and you're still right at the end of your last semester that you couldn't qualify for a portion of the completion grant. The idea is to help people across the finish line, help people in this case with dreams get started and to cross the finish line. One of the things I probably failed to mention is the eligibility for this is one must be eligible for the Hope Scholarship. You do not have to attain the Hope Scholarship, to be clear, but you have to be eligible to attain the Hope Scholarship. So you have to be a citizen of Georgia, you have to graduate from Georgia High School. Those things that the committee is familiar with, I believe they're in section 519.1 of current Georgia code. So that is the eligibility for a student to stand and be eligible for Dreams. With that, Mr. Chairman, if there are questions, I will try to answer them. I will try to get with members between now and either tomorrow or Wednesday when we would look to take action on this bill if you would allow me. So I'll answer questions or stand aside and let you hear testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a few questions at this time. Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to my other chairman. So just very quickly, I just have like 3 very quick questions. One, do we have work requirements for Hope Scholarship or Zell Scholarship right now?
To my knowledge, we do not.
Okay. And then second question is, we're kind of one of the last states to do this. Do any other states require work requirements for their needs-based scholarships?
I couldn't tell you if I understand not all do. I couldn't tell you that one does not. I'm not sure.
Okay. And then the last question, from a professor perspective, are there any concerns about students' academic success if they're having to do extracurricular stuff just to keep their scholarship? Because I assume these are students that are already academically not eligible for a Hope Scholarship, and so they probably need a little more time on their work. So as a professor, is there any concerns about just the student academic success by making them or requiring them to do extracurricular?
That's a fair question, and I can't, I'm not a college counselor, and you know, I can't answer that question directly and for everybody, Dr. Clark, but what I would say, and I'll just read this, because it's a fair discussion to have, but it says, be engaged in paid or unpaid work at least part-time for which may include but shall not be limited to employment, internship, externship, volunteer work, or military service. It's fairly open to what that may be. It could be, and I was speaking, if the whip doesn't mind me invoking his name, we were speaking beforehand about it, and he had some concerns as well. And I believe, and I take your point, but I believe this gives the financial aid officer at the university or the technical college the opportunity to look at individual situations and say, you know what, there's a work requirement to get this. This is good for you. We were able to work it out. You know, you don't have a job, you don't have a thing you're working at. Your work requirement is going to be, we're going to ask you to come in this office a couple hours a week, I don't know what that would be, and help us process forms for other students that may want to get this. And I can't think of anything more fulfilling. That's just a one-off, so I mean, there may be other things. But I think the way this work requirement is written, it gives the ultimate flexibility to those that are on the ground. And quite frankly, normally here, we're over-prescriptive, and then we have to loosen things. If we're anything here with this work requirement, we're probably, it's a bit too loose, and we may find it needs to come down, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be just right. Maybe people will have the personal responsibility and fit it in the right way. So if they find a student that has this, and what they were asking them to do was putting them behind, they can lessen it some and make it fit the student. I think we want to with the work requirement, and I'm long answer your question, but it's very important that we all understand this. I think we want them to have a sense of community in that university, and it means something, and you got this. And if your work requirement is helping other students see it and get it, or mentoring a student, I think that just lifts that student up, and it'll lift others.
And so would you be open, Mr. Chair, last question, to adding something like study hall or going to a tutoring center for some of these students? I'm just, again, from my professor perspective, making sure, like, if we do want to make sure these students, because we don't want to give scholarships to students that are going to fail.
Well, I guess what, and I cut you off, but I guess what I would say is volunteer work is very wide to do, okay. And I would think we could leave that to interpretation and look at the reporting we get on that first year and see what kind of, because I think we've all been very pleased with the 95-96% passage rate we've got on classes we've paid for with the completion grant. When we see folks that are getting this, doing well in school and moving forward, I don't think anybody on this committee or anybody in the second floor of the governor's office or in the Senate is going to pick at somebody and say, you know, your work requirement was 2 hours too short, as long as you're progressing through school. I think it's just, so, you know, we all qualified today. Maybe we'll get invited back and we'll get to look at this next year and see some success.
All right. Thank you. I won't be here next year, but I agree. Thank you.
Well, we will have to come see you where you're teaching.
Agree.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Glaze.
Thank you so much, Chairman, for sharing the bill. I'm really excited about the opportunity for students with unmet needs, with additional needs, to have this. So can you just zero in on unmet needs, or does it meet the qualifications that unmet need means in any of the federal grants, such as the Pell Grant?
Well, yes, ma'am. And Representative Glaze, that's one of the requirements that to be eligible, a student seeking a degree. I keep looking at the original bill, so let me direct you back to the new bill. It meets requirements starting on line 39. You have to fill out a FAFSA. Perhaps I should have gone through this, but it's on the It's in the bill, so I was trying to be a little brief, but you have to be enrolled, you have to do these various things, and again, have an unmet financial need. I think that is purposely open to the financial officers. I mean, there's a place where we're driving this out to the financial offices at TCSG and the USG system, that we have to look at those individuals that work with students to determine that, and then we have to look back to Mr. Green back there, who's looking at me with all the work we may put on him, and let them determine through rules and regs what those are, and then we'll get an opportunity to be part of that, and his board will help set those.
Well, I agree with what you said, that we should just continue to keep parity in unmet need in the post-secondary education sphere. So that would include some things like you and I know, that would books. It could also include transportation and housing. So I'm glad you said that it leaves up to the interpretation. Last but not least, I wanted to ask if it's okay with you to ask one more question, Chairman, around work. I know it's open, but we've got students who are athletes, full-time athletes, and some of them may be on a partial scholarship and may have a need for some additional fundings. Would volunteer or be open to the athletic training of a student who is on like a partial scholarship? And I know you don't know the answer, but
I would be happy to give the lady my opinion, and then again, if the chair doesn't like, if Mr. Green might come and give us 2 minutes of what his process would be to create the rules, just to tell us how that would look. But I would tell you, having been fortunate enough to get to walk on at the University of Georgia and in play over there a little while ago, and it's a lot harder today than it was then, to tell you that if they're getting some scholarship for that work they're doing in the gymnasium or on a basketball court, or if they're cheering, or if they're whatever they're doing at a college, that would absolutely fit a work requirement where I come from, because they're doing things, and the compensation may not be in terms of dollars, but it's in terms of their scholarship, and I would think that would fit as a work requirement. And perhaps again, they would mentor some other folks on the football team in addition to that, or on the basketball team, the cheer team, in order to do that. Again, we have to have some level of trust in these folks at our institutions and our financial officers that are working with these students to do this, because we just can't be everywhere, and if we try to be too tight on it, we'll find out that the search for perfection is the enemy of the good, and it won't get to the people it needs to get to, in my opinion. Isn't that true?
Very good. Thank you. Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Martin, thank you for the bill. I think it's incredibly important. I just had 2 questions, if I may. First, the $3,000 amount, can you help just educate us in terms of, is that kind of the most, up to 3,000, of course, but will that cover the vast majority of students who kind of fall into this category in which they have a need and haven't been able to otherwise meet it?
I wish I could give you statistical information, really operational information on that, Mr. Whip, but I am told with anecdotal information that they think that will cover a lot of the people. Will it cover everyone? No, but it was, the right number, that they had done with research. This is what was originally talked about by the governor, I believe, in the State of the Union, up to 3,000. I do know that we have up to 2,500 on our completion grant. So, I mean, if you would, a student their last year might have up to 5,500 available to them for the last 2 semesters. I'm not saying everyone would, but we've also understood that up to 2,500 on the completion grant, I believe, has been an average of about $1,200 is what the average award has been. Some have been as little as $400, $500, $600 to help folks over. So I think it goes a long way with a lot of people. Does it meet every need? No. is it the best way to start in order to distribute the money to get impact the most Georgians possibly? I believe so.
One last question. I know every member here on this committee voted in favor of the amended fiscal 26 that appropriated about $300+ million for this purpose. If this bill does not pass, what happens to that money?
I suspect the way, I think it's in two tranches. The one tranche, I believe, and I'm going to actually yield to Mr. Green because it's going to be under his purview, but I believe the one group, the one deposit stays in a it would stay until a bill is passed. I believe the 300 or so million would stay in there. The 25 might roll back in and be recaptured at the end of the year. But I'm saying that from having not looked directly at the line items in the budget. If I can just follow up, the $300 million is going into a non-lapsing fund for this purpose. And so I believe if that's the fund it went in, it would stay in until there was such time as we got an appropriate bill.
So if there are no statutory parameters with respect to how those funds would be dispersed, would USG or would they be able to provide by rule parameters for this need-based program? Again, just hypothetically, if we're not able to get this across the finish line, my understanding as to the importance of this bill.
I believe that Mr. Green is going to need, and he can testify this if the chair will allow, but I believe he would, it would be best for him to have statutory authority. I can't stand here today and tell you that a governor couldn't do that through an executive order. I just don't know the answer to that, but I think it would be best. I mean, a number of people expressed concerns, as did I, quite frankly, for that amount of money going to a private foundation to do it without legislative control. So for us to fail to come to some agreement to do this with the House and Senate, I think would, in my opinion, be an abdication of our duties to the people. I mean, the governor has put aside this money that came from the taxpayers of Georgia and expecting us to deploy it in a purpose, in a manner that will be good for Georgians and good for Georgia, and we have the opportunity to do that. If not with this exact language today, I look for your input to get where we need to go so we can do good for Georgia.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this bill as well. Just on line 63, we have a mandatory financial literacy course. I'm just trying to understand, are we going to, who's given the course, and are we going to, I guess, see if they take it? Like, do they have to take it in a certain amount of time, or do they need to take it before they get the money?
I think I'm going to yield to Mr. Green on that, but I think that would probably be handled in rules and regs. The idea for that financial literacy course is to be a positive thing for the student, not to be a hardship. And I know that Mr. Green will have to determine again through the acquisition process or through rules and regs what that course will be and how that course will be offered. But I know that the intention of that is to be good for the student, not to be something that's hard for them to complete.
I appreciate that line in the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Carpenter.
Thank you, Chairman. Two questions. First question, or one's a suggestion. As they go through the process, JA offers a pretty great financial literacy program they could probably set up for this purpose. The question is, how dead set are we on line 44, the 6 semester hours? I just have a little bit of heartburn setting the base so low, because what's going to end up happening, I'm afraid, is when they get to the eighth semester, they're not going to have enough hours if they're only hitting on 6. So at least 9 something to move that bar a little bit, because otherwise they're gonna need your completion grant plus some more probably to finish up. So that'd be my heartburn. But other than that, I appreciate the legislation.
I'll take that under advisement in answer to that, Chairman Carpenter. I think the 6 semester hours is not everyone does school at a full-time basis, and we want to be able to provide help for them as well. But I do take your point as if you do 6 semester hours and then there's a limitation on how many semesters you can get it. There again, they need to work with the financial advisor and realize that maybe you don't take it for every semester if you do that, because it won't go as far. I take your point.
Representative Jackson.
I think it's a wonderful idea. When I spoke out earlier, I was mixing things up, and I apologize. I have seen a program like this work that was built by one of the university schools, and it was because of that particularly our athletes and our other students that needed additional funding, if you work it out, it really helps students, particularly the athletes, because they're the ones, they're playing ball, but they're not being paid, and all of those things are going on. But it has to be a well-oiled program. So I just wanted to apologize. I felt kind of stupid. But this is a program that has long been needed. Some schools were doing similar programs, and then you had some that had none in the financial aid arena. So I changed. I changed. I have to, because having worked on a campus that dealt with financial aid, you know that these young people need even more money than what they're getting from the Pell or this and all those other things. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Jackson, please don't ever say I felt kind of stupid. It's a great honor to be sitting next to you on this historic occasion, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Representative Glaze?
To bring in the discussion that I would hope that we would come back and include private colleges to being able to accept the $3,000. And I do want to say that many years ago, 5+ decades, there was something called the Supplemental Opportunity Education Grant. And I was one of those who was poor enough to be able to get that grant, and that grant did help me finish undergrad. So this is important to those students who it's directed at and targeted for, and those are the students who have this great need. And so I do know that some of them will be part-time, and so I do agree that we should allow the students and the financial aid members of the college to help work out how they use these grants, and in the completion grant as being also usable. So I really do thank Chairman Martin for just doing a great job and kind of showing how this grant would be applied throughout Georgia, and very appreciative of our governor for bringing this Dream Scholarship for such a time as this.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Barnes. What? Representative Stinson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Martin, for your work on this legislation. And again, just to echo what my colleague stated, thanks to Governor Kemp for providing the appropriations for this, because we've been talking about and working toward this effort for quite some time. And so it's today, are we voting on this, or this is a hearing? Because if we're voting, I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, I'm not sitting in that chair now, but I would remind the lady that we hear things twice, and this is the first time, and I wouldn't expect us to change that, but because of the first name on the bill. So we'll have you back very soon.
Okay, we have a couple of people who would like to speak to the issue themselves. Is Jenna Colvin here? Ms. Coleman, please come up.
Chairman, I'm going to step back here, and I would just like to close after the speakers, if I could.
Yes, sir.
You ready for me? Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this bill. I'm Jenna Colvin with the Georgia Independent College Association. We represent the state's 24 private nonprofit colleges, and we hope that this important program will be extended to benefit all Georgians, and that the money will follow the students wherever they choose to go, and so that they can go to the school that's the right fit for them. Hope works that way. If the student earns hope, they can go to whichever college is the right one for them. This should work the same way for our students that are struggling financially. So Georgia has the lowest home state college attendance rate in the Southeast, meaning compared to our neighbors, fewer students stay home for school. We, the private schools, can be an important partner to change that and make sure that Georgia's workforce is in as best a position as it could be. When we think about financial need for students, I think there's a perception that students that go to private schools have a lot of money. As a percentage, the Independent College Association serves 40% Pell students. That's the same as the university system. In terms of numbers, though, it's different because there's a lot more schools at the public schools. It's about a 9-to-1 ratio, or the in-state Pell rate is 11%. Of the in-state Pell students will go to a private school. So adding us is not going to be a significant burden financially because the numbers aren't huge. And then I'd also just note that we've done an analysis of the graduate debt, because I think there's kind of this other idea that that the amount of debt for students at private schools is so much higher than at the university system. The average debt at graduation from a GICA school is only $2,500 more than a graduate from the university system. So this $3,000 number could make a huge difference for many students who want to go to a private school. And that could be because they want to study in a community with a religious affiliation. It could be because they want to study at a college that serves, that's a historically black college and university. It could be because they want to study at a women's school, right? Our schools offer something different. And it's something different and unique that's of importance for many Georgia families. And if the students aren't allowed to choose the school that's the right fit for them because they can't have this dream scholarship go with them, then we're hurting students in our community and we're forcing them into a school that may not be the right fit for them. And generally, we don't do that. And so my hope is that you would consider including, adding back in the language that was in the bill as dropped, not in the substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Chris Green, Georgia Student Finance Authority, would you join us for a minute and give us the benefit of your knowledge?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. My name is Chris Green. I serve as president of the Georgia Student Finance Commission. As has been said, thank you to the governor and to this body for this historic investment. $325 million, your support in the amended budget will absolutely be a game changer for students. Representative Glaze, to your question about unmet need and the cost of attendance, the way we read the bill currently is that this would allow us to meet both direct and indirect costs. So thinking about not only tuition and fees, but housing, food, transportation materials, those types of things. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to respond to any questions if I can.
Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the $3,000 amount, about how many students currently in our public institutions would that cover? And based on the testimony we just heard, if we were to include private institutions, what would that look like?
To my knowledge, I have not seen an estimate on the number of students served. The way the vision is currently, $300 million will go into an endowment to be made for future awards, and we'd start with that initial $25 million investment. Because I know this is a priority for you all and for the governor, I fully anticipate the expectation that we will make awards this fall. But I'm sorry, I don't have a student estimate just yet.
And could you speak to, what, if any, additional issues would there be if we added private colleges and nonprofits at this time?
Thank you for the question. We serve about 82 institutions currently, long-standing great relationships with all of our post-secondary partners. One of the things that you all are contemplating with this is perhaps a campus allocation model. So we would allocate essentially a pool of money to the institutions based on the student need on that campus. And then, as you've heard, the financial aid administrators could help target those dollars to the students with the most need. But we would follow your lead as far as which institutions are eligible to participate at the beginning.
Thank you.
Representative Glaze.
And one other question around the financial literacy course. Would it be possible to do more work on that to make sure that each college, TCSG, USG, or if we include private, that they offer that course to the students so that they can actually have the course on campus?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you to this committee for your focus on financial literacy. The great news is there are several external partners in this space that offer video modules, online, in-person learning. I know our campus partners already deploy many of these types of modules to assist students. And so whether it's a resource that we have on the website or we give a list of acceptable programs to the institutions, I think anything is possible, and just what a great opportunity for students.
Okay, Mr. Green, thank you very much for that. We have no further questions. Mr. Chairman, would you like to?
Yes, sir. I want to be brief here, and again, just thank the governor, and I don't think I have mentioned, and I'm remiss in doing this, Chancellor Sonny Perdue has been a very big part of this, and has been raising money toward this goal for over a year, and so we thank the Chancellor. Also, Commissioner Dozier, I know, is very impressive, and I would just say, if we can continue to look at things, but to the whip's point in the private college is not being in this version, we went back to the governor's original plan, and I think there's two things. Not that we don't trust our folks at the private college, we certainly do, but we're having to refine how this money is given out based on the institutions, and there's a lot of flexibility in the work requirement and the determination of needs. The TCSG financial aid offices and the USG financial aid offices report to us. The private colleges don't. So I think we can use a couple of years to refine what the unmet need looks like, what that defines, what the work requirement looks like, and perhaps we will get to the point with Ms. Colvin talking about those private partners, because again, these are students that are eligible from Georgia. So but with that, I'll continue to look forward to working with my colleagues here, and we'll bring this back and have something for you to vote on here very soon. We're going to hear it twice.
Okay, there being no further questions, we will bring this one back very, very soon. Probably in the morning, I guess, or hopefully this afternoon even, or even in 10 minutes.
Not quite, but not quite. I thank everyone for the positive comments on that, and look forward to working with you. So we're going to go back. We had two items before us that I gave you some more time while we were looking to look at, but we have substitutes where many things had changed to work with the folks, and so we have before us two items this afternoon. The first one I'm going to go to for action is HB 1379. This is HB 1379 LC 610442S. We had testimony on that. We have a substitute that answered many of our questions from Houston Gaines. LC 610442S, HB 1379. What's the pleasure? I have a motion, do pass. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Discussion on this. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion passes. Yes, sir, you can. Gentleman wishes a division. All those in favor of the motion is to move forward, do pass recommendation 1379 LC 610442S, signify by raising your right hand. Okay. Reverse. Got it. And you have that as, what do you have at 11?
It was pass.
I know, but you have the number 11-2?
11-3.
11-3. That moves forward with due pass recommendation. We have also HB 1363, LC 650083S, available for action from Chairman Silcox. What's the pleasure of the committee on this item? I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Good with that. We move that on to Rules 1363 LC 650083. We have a couple of items we are going to bring back later in the week. So right now, I think we're scheduled at 1:30 tomorrow. If there's no further action before the committee, we'll stand adjourned without objection. I see everybody's ready to go, and we are adjourned.